Chapter 13, 2009 to 2012, The Muse Show. 2009 Trip to Tennessee. After nearly depleting all of the donated funds to get the full band to Notre Dame in 2006, the band was able to raise enough money to send 49 band members and staff to the UCLA versus Tennessee game at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. On Friday, September 11th, the band flew on American Airlines to Nashville and stayed at the Courtyard by Marriott in downtown Nashville. While the band explored Printer's Alley that evening, director Gordon Henderson was able to snag a great seat to the Nashville Symphony concert that featured famed Chinese pianist Lang Lang. On game day, the band made the 3-hour bus ride to Knoxville in time to play the UCLA Bruin Bash before the game. The Tennessee band graciously loaned our tuba players 3 silver sousaphones, which helped the band save quite a bit of money from not having to pay oversize and overweight charges by the airline. Trombone player Sarah Derringer wrote, "After a lot of hangout time on the UT campus, we warmed up and had a 1-hour sectional. We then played the Bruin rally before the game, much like the Chancellor's tent at home games before entering the stadium. Gordon had a short rehearsal with the volunteer marching band to rehearse the UCLA fight song, which they performed during their pregame. We played at all times possible, cheered for the volunteer marching band, and helped create quite a lot of noise in the small UCLA section. The football team and Coach Neuheisel were very appreciative of our being there, as was the small UCLA crowd at the game. After an incredible 19-15 win, the football team and coach came over and danced while we played Rover and Al Word Up. The trip was a great success, despite watching USC beat Ohio State on the bus ride back to Nashville, relaxed but on schedule, busy but fun, and gave us the chance to enjoy Southern hospitality. Personnel on this trip were Gordon Henderson, director; Courtney Melender and Jessica Schlosser, flutes; Jason Scappa, Mallory Fierro, Justin Lee, and Christopher Aussan, clarinets; Torin Waters, Brannon Altenhofen, Heather Dennis, and Aaron Cubbin, alto saxes; Ryland Harris, Charles Underhill, Katie Meschke, and Ling Su Jae, tenor saxes; Andrew Levin, Eric Fierro, Kent Heberer, Keith Cupper, Alex Akashian, Marco De Leon, Alejandro Garcia, Eric Cavitan, Spencer Greger, and Brendan Homnick trumpets; Calvin Pham, Michael Branson, Elena Plummer-Raphael, Jeffrey Shum horns; Alex Bergman, Sarah Derringer, Margaret Crick, Andrew Rogers, Damon Sellers, Paul Adelman, Young Chan Cho, Emily Joseph, Alan McFarlane, and Michael Molman, trombones; Jason Barbado, Jose Urrutia, and Jeremy Whitt, sousaphones; Dana Johnson, Eric Kunihiro, Bryce Floor, Ben Harunian, Lisa Miyamoto, Brian Bauman, and Ritesh Gupta, percussion. 2009 Field Shows. The band's first halftime show of the 2009 season was on October 3rd at the UCLA at Stanford game. The band opened the show with El Toro Caliente by Scott Borma, who had composed this song in 1995 for the Madison Scouts Drum and Bugle Corps. The second half of the show featured UCLA trumpet professor Jens Lindemann on the Jay Chataway version of Pagliacci, which was originally arranged for the Maynard Ferguson Band. The Western show at the UCLA versus Oregon game on October 10th opened with the main theme from the movie Silverado, followed by the UCLA dance team being featured on Wild Wild West by the English pop rock band Escape Club. Next came the themes from the movies The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, with the drum majors lassoing a USC villain and the Magnificent Seven, and closing with the Stan Jones classic Ghost Riders in the Sky. For the Band Day show on October 17th at the UCLA versus Cal game, the band featured songs by Michael Jackson, who had died the previous June, starting with Bad and closing with Beat It. On November 7th, at the UCLA versus Washington game, the band performed El Toro Caliente and Manhattan Love Story, a song from a Japanese TV show that sounds remarkably similar to the jazz standard Sing Sing Sing. At the UCLA versus Arizona State game on November 21st, the band presented its classical show, beginning with Festive Overture by Dmitri Shostakovich, followed by trumpet graduate student Courtney Jones, serving as the guest soloist on Pagliacci. The show closed with the Ode to Joy from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. That evening, the band performed an exhibition for the Savannah High School Tournament of Bands at Glover Stadium in Anaheim. The band performed El Toro Caliente and Manhattan Love Story to the main stands, and then its pregame show to the high school bands seated in the back stands. At the away game at USC on November 28th, the band played El Toro Caliente, and UCLA trumpet professor Jens Lindemann also served as the guest soloist on Manhattan Love Story. 2010 Drumline Trip to Nagoya, Japan. During the first week of May 2010, 14 members of the UCLA Drumline traveled to Nagoya, Japan, to serve as the featured performers at the 27th Annual Ecotopia Festival. Funding for the trip came from the Ecotopia Festival, the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music Student Opportunity Fund, and the UCLA Bruin Marching Band Fund. The Ecotopia Festival is held each year during Japan's Golden Week, which includes the Emperor's Birthday, Greenery Day, Showa Day, Constitution Memorial Day, and Children's Day. The UCLA Drumline performed its 4-minute routine 4 times along the parade route on 2 consecutive days, which was well received by the audiences lining the streets. In addition to the performances in Nagoya, the Drumline members were able to take a sightseeing trip to Japan's ancient capital of Kyoto that included visits to the Kiyomizu-dera Temple and the Heian Shrine. Never heard of Ecotopia? It is a word formed from the Japanese word for train station, E-K-I, and utopia. The parade is one of several cultural events sponsored by merchants in downtown Nagoya, located near the central train station during Japan's Golden Week. Personnel on this trip were Gordon Henderson, director; Ben Harunian, Dana Johnson, Lauren McWhorter, Patrick Weber, and Philip Idell, snare drums; Ryan Barnoya, Ritesh Gupta, and Daniel Quach, tenor drums; Kelly Flickinger, Bryce Floor, and Eric Kunihiro, bass drums; Brian Bauman, Jasmine Harunian, and Lisa Miyamoto, cymbals. 2010 Jennifer Judkins steps down as assistant director. Following the 2009-10 academic year, Jennifer Judkins stated the following: "After 30 years as assistant director with the marching and varsity bands, I am finally stepping away from this position into a full-time academic appointment in the UCLA music department. For many years now, I have been working with the band and at the same time teaching graduate seminars in research methods and bibliography, and coaching DMA students with their dissertations. Although I truly enjoy each area, I am going to take this opportunity to pursue my passion, which is aesthetics, the philosophy of the arts, and to advance my own research and writing in the philosophy of music. I have had amazing experiences, many Rose Bowls, many Final Fours, 2 Hong Kong trips, numerous commercials and films, any one of which would be a career highlight at any other college. As I think back on all of the crazy/exciting/frustrating/rewarding things Gordon and I have put together over the years, I'll always be thrilled that I had this opportunity to represent this outstanding university so visibly and to try to give back some of what UCLA has given to me." 2010 New Assistant Director Keith Cupper. Keith Cupper graduated in 2010 after serving as drum major for 3 years and immediately stepped into the role of assistant director, a position he kept for the next 2 football seasons before entering nursing school. During that time, he made travel arrangements for the band's trips to the Cal and Stanford away games, as well as for the 2011 Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl in San Francisco. His efforts to keep the USC kickers off the field during halftime at the 2010 UCLA versus USC football game are legendary. His final appearance as assistant director was as guest conductor of the UCLA Symphonic Band on the Bassler Marsh in May 2012. 2010 Band Alumni Reunion. Over 165 band alumni participated in the 11th Biennial Band Alumni Reunion on Saturday, October 30th, at halftime of the UCLA versus Arizona football game. The Halloween theme, featuring a medley of Ghostbusters and Thriller, along with the UCLA band and the band alumni wearing Halloween costumes, was well received by the Rose Bowl crowd. Despite a massive storm that rained all night and early morning, the skies cleared just as the rehearsal began at 9 a.m. Huge quantities of Adidas gear and other apparel were distributed to the participants after the rehearsal. The Distance Award was presented to Peter Dames, who came all the way from Veldhoven, the Netherlands, and the representative from the earliest UCLA class was presented to 3 band alumni, tuba player Peter Barrett, piccolo player Paul Hill, and drum major Kim Strutt, who all were in the UCLA band in the 1950s. 2010 shows, The Muse Show and The Cartoon Show. At a spring staff meeting, senior trombone player Michael Molman suggested that the band should perform a show of music by the British alternative rock group Muse. Director Henderson had never heard of them, but he started listening to their albums and quickly became a huge fan. In further research for the show, he attended the Muse concert at the Staples Center that September. He arranged MK Ultra, the United States of Eurasia, Resistance, and the Knights of Sidonia for the show that was performed at the away game at Cal on October 9th, the Chino High School Field Tournament on November 6th, and the home game versus USC on December 4th. At the USC game, Henderson anticipated that at halftime, the USC kickers would come out of the locker room earlier than the rest of the team and potentially interfere with the UCLA band show. Their kickers did come out early, but assistant director Keith Cupper and TA Sean Garnwriter harassed them sufficiently to keep them from kicking into the band, with Keith at one point standing in front of the ball so it couldn't be kicked, and he also bumped into the kicker while arguing with him. A few years later, a Utah cheerleader who happened to be the daughter of an administrator there was injured by a practice kick from a visiting team, and only then did the Pac-12 conference see the need to keep kickers off the field until their full teams ran out. This show had long-lasting positive effects for the band. The Rolling Stones selected the UCLA Bruin Marching Band to open their 2013 Staples Center concert after seeing the video of this show. A few years later, after viewing this video, the members of Muse themselves selected the UCLA Bruin Marching Band to record an alternate version of their song, Pressure, for their upcoming album Simulation Theory that was released on November 9, 2018. In early November of that fall, the band performed its cartoon show, which featured drill designed by teaching assistant William Plank, marking the first time that anyone other than Henderson had designed drill during his tenure. Plank also arranged the music for the opener, Zero to Hero, from the Disney movie Hercules. After graduating from UCLA with his DMA in conducting, Plank became the director of the University of Nevada, Reno Marching Band in 2011, and then the director of the athletic bands at the University of Memphis in 2017. 2011 NCAA Basketball Tournament. The band traveled on the team plane to Tampa, except for a few stragglers who flew in the next day due to conflicts with winter quarterfinals, for the NCAA Basketball Tournament. In the first-round game versus 10th-seeded Michigan State, 7th-seeded UCLA won a close game with a score of 78-76. The game that immediately followed was between 2nd-seeded Florida versus 15th-seeded UC Santa Barbara. UCSB apparently didn't expect to last long in the tournament, as they only brought a handful of band members who asked the UCLA band members to sit in with them for their game and wear their gaucho uniforms, of which they brought plenty of extras with them. The UCLA band members did a great job sight-reading their pep band tunes. 2011 Fall Season. For the early season UCLA versus Texas game, the band performed its pregame show at halftime, with Matchbox 20's How Far We've Come inserted midway through. The big show for the 2011 season was the jazz show that started with Birdland by Joe Zanawal, followed by the trumpet section being featured on Bill Chase's Open Up Wide, and closing with Carnival 9 First Impression Part 2 by the progressive rock group Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This show was performed at the Washington State home game and the away game at USC. The first two pieces were performed at the away game at Stanford. At the UCLA versus Arizona State game on November 5th, the band presented The Funk Show. The show opened with Squid Cakes by Tower of Power, followed by Funky Town by Lips Inc. The funk theme continued with Wild Cherries' Play That Funky Music, White Boy, and the show closed with Herbie Hancock's Chameleon. For the UCLA versus Colorado game, the band performed its Downfall of Troy show on the usual 4-year rotation. Helen was portrayed by drum major Jessica Schlosser and King Menelaus by trombonist Wesley Mercado. At the UCLA versus Cal game, 16 high school bands joined the band at halftime for its Band Day show. The combined bands played UCLA fight songs and Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. Another special event that fall was when the band was featured in a national McDonald's TV commercial. Keith Cupper led the band for this late-night shoot. Each band member received $100 for the gig, but 3 received residuals if they were shown close-up on camera as they ate Chicken McNuggets. One of the 3 was not originally designated to get a close-up, but during the shoot he talked his way in, even though he was a vegan due to his religion. This same person always complained when the band didn't order enough vegan lunches on game days. The residuals ended up being several $1,000s for each of the 3. A few months later, the band shot a Honda commercial in the City of Industry. Everyone received $100, but several were disappointed that there would be no residuals for this one. Despite finishing the regular season with a 6-win and 6-loss record, UCLA represented the Southern Division in the Pac-12 Conference Championship game because USC was ineligible due to NCAA sanctions. Budget constraints and class concerns with finals coming on quickly meant only about half of the band made the trip. At a memorably cold rehearsal with the Oregon band the night before the game, the 2 bands worked on playing America the Beautiful together for the pregame show. At halftime, the band performed a standstill show, playing Bruin Fanfare, Ow, Word Up, and the fight song. 2011, the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl, UCLA versus Illinois. For the trip to San Francisco to perform as a pep band at the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl, about 120 members traveled from Los Angeles, and another 50 who lived in the Bay Area met the band at the Mountain View High School rehearsal site. The band's hotel was just 2 blocks from Pier 39, so band members had an easy time hitting all the sites the night before the game. This was UCLA's second appearance at this bowl, which was held at AT&T Park, the home of the San Francisco Giants baseball team. 2012 new assistant director Dr. Kelly Flickinger. Kelly Flickinger entered UCLA as a freshman music major in 2003. After graduating, he served as the head percussion instructor and arranger for the Bruin marching band from 2007 to 2010. Under Flickinger's direction, the drumline performed with Linkin Park and Paula Abdul and was featured on the VicFirth.com website. In 2010, Flickinger designed a drumline performance for the 27th annual Ecotopia Festival Parade in Nagoya, Japan. From 2008 to 2011, Flickinger taught percussion methods at UCLA, and in 2012, he was a guest conductor with the symphonic band and taught applied percussion to music education majors. From 2008 to 2010, Flickinger served as a percussion instructor for the Pacific Crest Drum and Bugle Corps. He taught and arranged for numerous high schools throughout Southern California, including the 9-time SCSBOA champion William S. Hart High School. His travels have taken him to Thailand on several occasions, where he served as a clinician for schools throughout the country. In addition to UCLA, he served as percussion instructor or arranger for the University of Nevada, Reno Wolfpack Marching Band, and the Central Washington University Wildcat Marching Band. Flickinger has performed throughout the United States, as well as Canada, Hong Kong, and Japan. He was a member of the Santa Clara Vanguard Drum and Bugle Corps, Black Knights Drum Corps, and Esperanza Drum and Bugle Corps. He performed on American Idol with James Durbin and appeared on stage with Kelly Clarkson, John Legend, Robin Thicke, and Jennifer Nettles on the ABC show Duets. Flickinger received his Doctorate of Musical Arts in Percussion Performance from UCLA with his dissertation entitled Music as a Gradual Lostness, a Performer's Guide to the Phase Music of Steve Reich. 2012 Fall Season. The season started with an early season game versus Nebraska on September 8th. Since this was about 2 weeks before band camp would begin, the band didn't perform any field shows, so the 70 band members present would only play in the stands. Instead of our normal entrance into the Rose Bowl through the Southeast Tunnel, UCLA Athletics decided to get creative, so they asked the band to march around the east side of the stadium to enter from a north gate. Henderson recalls, "So the band marched around and had to push through crowds to get there, only to find out that the gate personnel never got the word that we were coming, so we moved on to the next gate and finally got in. Then we had to march through more crowds of Nebraska fans to get around to our seats. We said never again." The band's first field show at the Oregon State game on September 22nd was the annual Band Day show accompanied by 28 high school bands. The combined bands played UCLA fight songs and America the Beautiful that they rehearsed earlier on the day for about an hour. For the annual trip to the Bay Area for the Cal game on October 6th, the Cal and UCLA bands combined for a halftime show as part of the ceremony for the rededication of their football stadium after a major renovation. The band stood in a USA formation and played the Armed Forces Medley and American the Beautiful. At the UCLA vs. Utah game on October 13th, a record number of UCLA band alumni, over 210, participated in the band alumni reunion halftime show. Once again, enormous quantities of Adidas gear and other apparel were distributed to the participants after the rehearsal. A medley of beach music, California Girls, Wipeout, and Surf City, was the featured song, and yes, the combined UCLA band and alumni drummers played the famous drum solo on Wipeout. The Distance Award was presented to Felisa Horton from Seoul, Korea, and Kevin Caton, who was then stationed in Okinawa, Japan. The representative from the earliest UCLA class was presented to clarinetist Martin Shira, who was a member of the band in 1948. That evening, the band performed the Queen Show, an exhibition at the Rowland High School Tournament of Bands. This season's patriotic show was performed at the UCLA vs. Arizona game on November 3rd. The start began with the Stars and Stripes Forever, followed by Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B, as the UCLA Spirit Squad, dressed in World War II fashions, showed off their jitterbug dancing skills. The show closed with the Armed Forces Medley with fire extinguisher effects for the tank drill during the Army theme, The Caissons Go Rolling Along, and for the airplane drill during the Air Force theme, Off We Go Into the Wild Blue Yonder. A large American flag was unfurled on the field as the medley ended with the Navy theme, Anchors Aweigh. For the UCLA vs. USC game on November 17th, the band performed its Queen Show, including We Will Rock You, Don't Stop Me Now, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and Bohemian Rhapsody. The UCLA vs. Stanford game on Saturday, November 24th, was during the Thanksgiving weekend. The band came back to campus the evening before to rehearse. At halftime, it performed a UCLA Idol show, patterned after the TV competition show American Idol. The contestants for the contest, UCLA music majors India Carney and Dominic Del Zampo. The band spelled out Bon Jovi as they backed up the singers on Livin' on a Prayer, and spelled out Journey as they sang Don't Stop Believin'. Both singers were declared winners, and each won a $1,000 prize. In 2015, India Carney was a contestant on the 8th season of the reality singing competition series The Voice on NBC, where she came in 5th overall. The following Friday, UCLA played Stanford again, this time at Stanford Stadium in the Pac-12 Conference Championship game. All UCLA had to do was beat Stanford to propel the Bruins to the Rose Bowl game, and with a 24-17 lead going into the fourth quarter, it was looking pretty good. But it was not to be, as Stanford scored a late touchdown and field goal to win the game. Most of the band went on this trip, but with budget constraints and class conflicts again being a problem, it performed standstill concert shows for both pregame and halftime. At pregame, the band played Bruin Fanfare, Gangnam Style by South Korean rapper Psy, and The Fight Song. At halftime, it played We Will Rock You from The Queen Show, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B from The Patriotic Show, and The Fight Song. One of the new stand tunes for the season was Gobbledygook by Icelandic band Sigur Rós, which was one of Henderson's favorites. 2012, the Holiday Bowl, UCLA vs. Baylor. On December 26th, 178 band members traveled by bus and their own cars to San Diego, while 72 flew in from their home cities outside of Southern California. On that morning, the band played at a Battle of the Bands and the kickoff luncheon at Sales Pavilion, followed by a 4-hour rehearsal at La Jolla High School. The band then checked into its hotel, the Westin Gaslamp Quarter, and had the rest of the evening free. On the morning of the game, the band marched in the Port of San Diego Big Bay Balloon Parade and performed at a rally on the Navy Pier next to the USS Midway Museum, along with the Baylor University Marching Band. The band arrived at Qualcomm Stadium at about 4:30 p.m. to play at various tailgate parties before entering the stadium for their pregame performance. At halftime, the band performed a shortened version of its Queen Show that it had performed earlier in the season at the Rowland High School Field Tournament and the USC vs. UCLA football game.